Okay, well, here's a question I have for you about me. What do you think my coworkers mean when they say that they don't think I'm a white savior?
I think that white savior, I mean, you probably know what white savior is, right? Like, a white savior is a racialized white person who, um, I mean, it's exactly what what it sounds like. That thinks that they're going to come into people of color's lives and be like their savior in some way, shape, or form. Whether that
Hmm.
means they think that they're going to like mentor them out of racism, or whether they think they're going to like um, normally it's some kind of like I'm going to be your shining white knight somehow, in some action that I take, maybe through some kind of allyship that I have in my mind that I'm going to do. um, so I think that that's what people mean when they say white savior. Let's actually look it up and see what the internet says about white savior.
Do you think it's because it's sort of transactional in that way rather than based on like meaningful relationship building?
Well, I think it's more like a lack of self awareness that they're doing it for themselves.
Hmm.
Like that ultimately that's why they're doing it, and like not actually to bring about any true transformational change. Um, and it goes back to we're reading MLK right now. Actually, let me see if I can pull it up. I might have a quote that's perfect for this. Let's see. I think I highlighted it. Mm-mm. I can't find it right now, but it goes back to um, the Trumpet of Conscience that we read, where because we're because we're racialized differently and we are situated differently, we look at the problem of racialization differently, and ultimately, a lot of racialized white people want an end to brutality, right? If brutality arises, if violence starts becoming visible, if injustices start being placed in front of their face, then that's not okay, and we need to do something, and this has to stop. But once it stops, at least to their eye, then it's over. Like we
Right.
won. And so there's not really, and that's never what racialized black people or other um, minority racial groups are after. It's not a stop to brutality, although that's very nice when that happens. But that's not the goal. So um, it's it's just very. I think that is where like the divide really exists still to this day, because we just don't get to talk across racial lines about these issues, and
Yeah.
about how to solve them. It's just there's no space for that. There's no place for that. We don't get educated to do that. We get discouraged from doing it. And so I think what you get is a lot of racialized white people who they want to do the right thing, right, in their minds, but the reality of doing the right thing, that it's going to cost them something, that um, that it doesn't mean just like whatever they saw, whatever they were adjacent to or experienced themselves ends, like it doesn't end at that point. And so I think that I can't remember like the exact. Oh yeah, you said what do they mean when they say you're not a white savior? I think it means that you probably have like a greater level of self awareness about your positioning in the organization, that you weren't going to come in and like on your white horse and like try to like change things up, but not really. You know what I mean?
Hmm. How do you think like, because I'm just thinking about how, this situation with the Mizrahis who were so aggravated by an Ashkenazi left who they didn't identify with, or even thinking about the way like groups like DSA or something like that gets received, in New York. Like the left is so annoying. Like, how do we how do we actually build like the organizations of change that we need, like that are going to transcend this when like this is what we have to work with?
I think it's just like, collaboration requires a shared intention and trust. And I think racism really impedes building that. And it's used as a weapon to drive a wedge between people often. And so it's the same for class distinctions as well, even more so in some contexts, And so bridging these gaps, I think, is going to become a powerful weapon in building the collaborative power and organized power that we need in order to fight for change. But right now, how to bridge those gaps, like I feel like it's looked at as almost like the way soft skills are looked at for a job, you know? Like we both know that soft skills are very important for people to do their jobs effectively, and to excel at their jobs, but they're not really looked upon that way in terms of decision making and how power is wielded. I think it's very
Mm.
similar in that regard, that like people look at dealing with actually making space for us to communicate and commune on issues of race, on issues of class, on issues of gender, on issues of sexuality, like that it's kind of like fluff work or like side work. It's not the main work, but really it is part of the main work. And so for me, that's why I do what I'm doing here, is because I think I just feel like, and it's just my belief. I'm not going to say that I'm right, but like it's my belief that um, creating space for these conversations, engaging in them, it changes people's. I know for a fact, in fact, that it changes people's perspective on the world and on themselves and on others. And oftentimes that change, um, it the one of the consequences is a decreased level of fear and an increased level of trust. And those are things we need to build coalitions that go across racial lines, that go across class lines, that go across gender lines. So I'm looking at it that way, broadly like that, because that's where I feel like I can actually do something. But, maybe that'll give other people a framework from which to think about these problems and where they find their own place to be to
Right.
continue to generate progress.
Right. It's like teaching white people how to be normal and relate to people again.
I mean, it's not about normal. It's just like, like I think racialized white people have to go through a grieving process.
Hmm.
Like the identity that was forced upon them, like it needs to be acknowledged that it was forced upon them, that it wasn't chosen. And that has to be accepted by racialized white people as a group. I don't think that really has happened. Right now, I think as a group, racialized white people want to defend whiteness. And that has to change, you know?
Hmm.
So that's what I'm trying to do, is give people a chance to really think deeply about what it means to defend whiteness, and do they really want to do that, and is that really what they're defending. All these questions are things that I don't think most racialized white people get a chance to even ask themselves. So I'm just trying to bring it to the table. That's all I can do, but I think that's a lot right now.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it.